Hello friends, welcome back to Cisco Router series. In this video, I am going to explain about Cisco router modes and how they work in detail. A router is a layer 3 device used to forward packets from one network to another. Routers can forward packets through an internetwork by maintaining routing information in a database called a routing table. There are 5 iOS modes. They are User Execution Mode, Privilege Execution Mode, Global Configuration Mode, Setup Mode, and ROMMON mode. The first three modes are used to view current settings and configure new settings or modify existing settings. The last two modes are used to set up the initial device configuration and troubleshoot the device in an emergency, respectively. Let's understand each iOS mode in detail. User execution mode is the first mode a user has access as soon as the interface up message appears and press enter. The user mode can be identified by the greater than prompt following the router's name. This mode has very limited commands that allow the user to view router status and execute only the basic commands. This mode does not allow the user to change any of the settings. The user mode can be identified as shown below, router greater than symbol. Next mode is privilege execution mode. Privilege mode allows users to save, view, and erase device configuration, to restart or reload the router, to enter router configuration mode. Privilege mode can be identified by the hash prompt following the router name. From the user mode, a user can access privilege mode by executing enable command. To close this mode or to return into the user execution mode, use the exit command or the end command. The privilege mode can be identified as shown below, router hash. Now next mode is global configuration mode. Global configuration mode allows users to configure the router. From this mode, a user cannot only configure new settings but can also change, update, or delete existing settings. To enter this mode, use the configure terminal command from the privilege execution mode. To exit from this mode, you can use the end or the exit commands. You can also press the Ctrl plus Z key combination from keyboard. The global configuration mode can be identified as shown below. Router config hash. The following diagram shows how to navigate between the user execution mode, privilege execution mode, and the global configuration mode. These are some important global configuration submodes. They are interface mode, sub-interface mode, line mode, and router configuration mode. Now let's talk about each submode in detail. Interface mode can be identified by router config if hash. In interface mode, router physical interface are configured. User can configure LAN IP, WAN IP in interface mode. You can see how user can configure an IP address in interface mode. Now let's talk about sub-interface mode. Sub-interface mode can be identified by router config subif hash. In sub-interface mode, user can create virtual interfaces below the physical interface. User can configure VLAN in layer 2 switch. In this mode, you can see how user can configure encapsulation in sub-interface mode. Next mode is line configuration mode. Line configuration mode can be identified by router config line hash. In line configuration mode, access mode of the device are configured. Users are able to configure console port, auxiliary port, telnet in this mode. You can see how user can set a password in line mode. At last, router configuration mode. In this mode, routing protocol are configured. Router configuration mode can be identified by router config router hash. User can configure RIP, OSPF like protocols in this mode. You can see how a user can configure network address in this mode. Next is setup mode. When we power on the router, it will look for the configuration. If it does not find a valid configuration, it places the user in the setup mode. This mode allows the user to configure the initial router configuration. Setup mode start a text-based wizard that asks questions about initial setting in the sequence. Based on the answers provided by the user, the router IOS automatically creates the initial configuration. ROMMON mode stands read-only memory monitor mode. It is also known as ROM monitor mode. If router does not find a valid iOS image to load, or if the iOS image file is missing or corrupt, the router automatically enters in this mode. This mode allows the user to troubleshoot the iOS. Users can enter into the ROMMON mode by pressing function plus control plus break key of laptop during booting of router. ROMMON mode can be identified by ROMMON1 greater than sign. Thanks for watching video. Hit bell icon to get new videos.